Hey guys, before I get started with today's video, if you have ever wanted to have a say in what gets put out on the channel, now is your chance. I'm giving you exclusive access to have a say in what type of videos get put out, which guests you want me to do interviews with. I'm even going to give you the opportunity to get questions in before I interview the guests. And on top of that, you'll get priority responses, not only on videos, but on the live streams as well. So for these and other perks, have a look at the link in my description, become a member on the YouTube channel and have your say. Enjoy the video, guys. Please also make sure to like the video, comment and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed this video. Now, before I get to any type of analysis, fight breakdown, or who I think is going to win, I think we must just take a moment to appreciate the fact that we are going to get to see two absolute beasts go at it in their prime, at the height of their careers. And I think regardless of who you're rooting for or you want to win, we just need to appreciate this fact and enjoy this fight. Now, that being said, let me give you my thoughts on how I think this fight is going to go and who I think is going to come out victorious at the end. Now, as I mentioned, both of these fighters are in their absolute primes. They both kind of joined the UFC at a similar time. Khamzat Chimaev going 8-0 since 2020 in the UFC. Dricus du Plessis going 9-0, racking up 2 title defenses in that time. Their trajectory sort of followed a similar path. Dricus du Plessis obviously getting to the belt. Khamzat Chimaev switching weights, trying to find where his home would be, but definitely looks to have found a home at 185 pounds. And if his last performance is anything to go by, this is definitely going to be Dricus du Plessis' toughest test to date. Now, for the champion, since joining the UFC, it's almost seemed as if every single fight would be his toughest fight to date, and for all of his fights passed with flying colors. For me, this fight's going to come down to a couple of aspects. The first one being, how is round 1 going to go? Khamzat Chimaev comes out flying in all of his fights. Khamzat Chimaev is probably one of the best round 1 fighters in the entire UFC. From the first bell, we've seen him go for his takedowns, dominate his opponents and put them away most of the time. Some of his takedowns coming in under 5 seconds. He's quick, he's strong, he's overwhelming, and he's efficient. I mean, you just look at the way he's put away fighters like Robert Whittaker and Kevin Holland, to name a few. Now, that being said, Dricus du Plessis, probably for the most part, round 1 has been his weakest round in all of his fights. I mean, you look at the Derek Brunson fight, even a little bit in the Darren Till fight. I know he was hitting him with a lot of shots. Even in the Sean Strickland fight, sort of takes his time to get going. However, it's not as if he was in any real danger in any of his fights in round 1. Now, the second thing we need to consider is going to be strength. Khamzat Chimaev has been able to overpower most of his opponents, overwhelm them with his size and his strength, particularly at welterweight, and to an extent, Dricus du Plessis has been able to do the same. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what the size difference is like, if there is any, when these two face off for the first time. I think Dricus du Plessis will be bigger and stronger. I know a lot of people might not agree with that, but I think it's going to be something for Khamzat to really come to terms to when he gets in there and he feels the physicality and the strength of Dricus du Plessis. Now, the next thing we need to consider is the ground game. Now, the big talk coming into this fight from most of the Khamzat fans in particular, but just in the MMA world in general, is, will Khamzat be able to take Dricus du Plessis down? It's almost as if people are making this the defining fact of this fight, as if Dricus du Plessis getting taken down is going to mean the end of the fight and Khamzat's just going to be able to do what he wants with him. Now, do I think Khamzat Chimaev is going to be able to take Dricus du Plessis down? 100% he will be. I think his wrestling is amazing. Dricus du Plessis, we've seen get taken down even by Rob Whittaker in the Brunson fight. He's been taken down on multiple occasions. But do I think this is going to be the main factor in this fight? Most definitely not. I think Dricus du Plessis, 1, is good on the ground, but 2, has the ability to get up if he needs to, even against a high-level wrestler like Khamzat Chimaev. I do think it will play a part, but I don't think it's going to be the most overwhelming part. Now, the last thing we need to consider, which I think will be one of the most important factors in this fight, is cardio. Khamzat Chimaev's cardio is great. Even in fights where he struggled previously, he still had enough cardio to be able to push through to the end of round 3. Dricus du Plessis, on the other hand, started off with some really bad cardio, let's be honest, but did have a nasal issue, which he then fixed, and his cardio has looked pretty good since then. Now, Dricus du Plessis is used to fighting 5-round fights and preparing for 5-round fights. In the EFC, he was champion. He had to prepare for 5 rounds for the majority of his last few fights, even though they didn't go there. In the UFC, it's been the same case. He's had to prepare for 5 rounds in his last couple of fights. So he'll he'll be used to preparing for 5 rounds. Khamzat Chimaev's never prepared for 5 rounds. He's never gone close to 5 rounds even. The furthest that he's gone is 3 rounds. It's going to be interesting to see how Khamzat Chimaev's cardio holds up if it does go into the championship rounds. Now, another thing we need to consider is each fighter's ability to overcome adversity. If you look at the champion, he's had multiple fights where he's faced quite a bit of adversity. If you look at the Brad Tavares fight, he hit him with every single shot that he could think of, and Brad Tavares was still there standing in front of him. Now, for someone that's used to just touching somebody and they go to sleep, that is a huge effect on your mental state when you're fighting. But Dricus du Plessis was able to just calm it down and come through that fight victorious. In the Brunson fight, there was a lot of adversity in round 1, particularly Dricus du Plessis was extremely tired after round 1, had been mounted and in very poor positions, but was able to overcome that adversity and actually make Derek Brunson quit. In the Sean Strickland fight, Dricus du Plessis fought a very tricky opponent who was hard to hit, actually got him with some shots in the early rounds, but was able to push through and overcome that adversity after 5 rounds. With Khamzat Chimaev, we've seen him in some adverse moments, in particular in the Gilbert Burns fight. Gilbert Burns had made a point not to back down, made a point that he wanted to try and win that fight. Khamzat Chimaev had some hairy moments and took a lot of shots in that fight, but at the end of the day, still came through and deservedly won that fight at welterweight. And then there was the Kamaru Usman fight. Khamzat Chimaev had done everything to try to put Kamaru Usman away, but couldn't do it in round 1. Kamaru Usman then started to find his way back. A lot of people thinking he won that fight. I don't. I think Khamzat won it. Did really well to overcome that and get the win. Now, when these two step into the octagon at UFC 319, I can guarantee it is going to be a completely new experience for both of them. I think Khamzat Chimaev's ability to get the takedown, his skills in the grappling exchanges, and his movement will be something that Dricus du Plessis has never seen before. But at the same time, I think Dricus du Plessis' inventiveness in the scrambles, power, his speed, and his awkwardness is going to be something that Khamzat Chimaev has not seen before. The question now becomes which one will be able to deal with it better. Now, with all that being said, how do I think the fight is going to go? Now, I don't think anything is going to change from Khamzat Chimaev's game plan that's been working so well for him throughout his career. I don't think he's going to waste any time going for the takedown. I think he knows if he can get the pressure early in round 1, that is his best bet to try to put Dricus du Plessis away. Of course, everybody knows that that is his game plan. Dricus du Plessis knows that that is his game plan. I think they are going to be expecting it. I think, depending on what they want to do in that exchange, if they want to keep it standing, of course, he's going to sprawl, he's going to counter wrestle, do all of that. I do think one thing that's being slept on the Dricus du Plessis side is his guillotine. Now, I've personally felt his guillotine and it is not fun. The squeeze is so quick and so tight. Before you know it, you're seeing stars and you have to tap. He's put multiple fighters away in previous fights with that guillotine, and when you see him lock it on, you can see people freak out because of the squeeze that he puts on. He did it as well against an entire Gracie Barra team, and the guys tapped incredibly quickly, and I didn't understand it until I felt it myself. It is on quick, it is on strong, and you don't have much time. Once it's in, it's in. Now, even with the threat of the guillotine and the sprawl, it's highly likely that Khamzat Chimaev will get Dricus du Plessis down. Now the question becomes, what does he do when he's on top? Is he going to be able to physically dominate Dricus du Plessis? Is he going to be able to have his way with him on the ground like he has in most of his previous fights? Or will Dricus du Plessis counter wrestle and get up to his feet, or do a good job of keeping him there in a position where he can't do damage? Now, for me, I go with the latter. I think Dricus du Plessis has one of the best grappling coaches in the world in Coach Neil Geyser, and I do believe with knowing what's coming, they will be able to get to their feet. But if they don't, I still do believe that Dricus du Plessis has enough grit, has enough toughness, as he's shown in his career in previous fights, not to be put away in the first round. But with all that being said, we won't know until they get in there and start fighting. It's just as likely that Khamzat Chimaev will be able to continue doing what he's done to most of his other opponents. If he can physically dominate him on the ground, whether it be with strength or technique, I can just as easily see this going the way of Khamzat Chimaev via rear naked choke or via ground and pound. So if this fight does end in round 1, I think it will be either Dricus du Plessis via guillotine or Khamzat Chimaev via TKO or sub, similar to a lot of his previous fights. Now, if this fight does make it to round 2, I do think it will follow a similar pattern with Khamzat Chimaev trying to shoot, particularly if he's had early success in round 1, and I do see him for the first half of round 2 at least being on top, looking to try to finish either with a TKO or a sub again. Now, I do think that Dricus du Plessis again will be tough enough to last whatever attack there is if it does go that way, like we did in both the Gilbert Burns and the Kamaru Usman fights, and the champion growing slowly into the fight, possibly even reversing a position or getting back up to his feet and starting to get some shots on the feet. Now, if it goes to round 3, I see the momentum continuously shifting in Dricus du Plessis' favor. I see him being able to keep it on the feet as much as he likes, but in true Dricus fashion, maybe going for a takedown here or there of his own, but really see a momentum switch in the champion's favor, and Khamzat Chimaev's cardio start to drop. Dricus du Plessis' cardio staying consistent, being able to stop any type of takedowns and keep the fight standing, and hitting Khamzat Chimaev with some good shots, slowly breaking him down. Round 4, I see Khamzat Chimaev start to tire even more, and as I mentioned, Dricus du Plessis might even go for a takedown of his own, but I don't think he needs to do that. I think his kickboxing ability allows him to just keep Khamzat Chimaev at bay, hit him with kicks to the legs, possibly kicks to the head, and some good shots. And I think we see Khamzat Chimaev visibly break in round 4. Now, if it does for some reason finish in round 4, I think Dricus du Plessis drops him and then swarms him with some ground and pound to TKO him, or if Khamzat Chimaev gives his back up, he gets taken out with a rear naked choke. Now, if we see a round 5, I think it's just much of the same of round 4, with Khamzat Chimaev tiring even further, Dricus du Plessis putting even more pressure on Khamzat Chimaev, and Khamzat's will eventually giving out. And I think if it makes it to round 5, Dricus du Plessis finishes him via TKO after dropping him or taking him down, passing his guard and submitting him. Now, as I mentioned, guys, this fight really could go either way. If it's an early finish, it leans more towards Khamzat Chimaev. If it goes to the later rounds, particularly the championship rounds, I have almost no doubt that it will be Dricus du Plessis winning this fight. So that's my analysis and my predictions. Let me know who you think is going to win the fight and how. And as always, please make sure to like the video, comment and subscribe, and I will see you for the next one. Cheers, everybody.